Welcome back to India on 99.94, your home of Indian cricket content. I'm Nikesh Ragani, your host, BBC commentator, alongside Sarah Waris of Wisden. Sarah, oh my God, what have we just seen?
Yeah, we are recording just an hour after the match and still processing my emotions because Virat Kohli, you beauty, you king, no adjectives. I'm
None
short
can
of
do him
words.
justice, can they?
Yeah. I'm short of words. Like I'm at a loss of words. Virat Kohli is the king, the goat, and there never should ever be any debate about him. And apologies for questioning his place in the team. I take ownership for it before we proceed forward a few months ago. But I think we jinxed him, like it was all just an anti-jinx, and we jinxed him back to form. I like to think of it that way. So
Yeah,
he's back.
Kohli getting the job
Yeah.
done. He's back on the world stage. We saw glimpses of him coming back in the Asia Cup, and wow, what an innings! I mean, we just mentioned just before we started recording, we can't even remember really what happened in the first innings, right? India won the toss. I mean, look, the hype was all there. We gave it the big build up on our preview episode. Rightly so as well. Nothing really gets bigger than this. It was at the MCG as well, which made it even more of a grand occasion. There were more than 90,000 people officially in the stadium to watch all the action as well. So well done to all of those whose heart rates are still intact and they're all healthy and well. And we hope nobody was adversely affected by all the drama that went on. But look, India won the toss. They decided to have a bowl first. Everyone thought it was happy days at that point, didn't they? That, win the toss, ball was swinging early on. That first wicket of Babar off his first delivery, Arshdeep Singh removing him with a beautiful in-swinging full delivery. Removed Rizwan shortly after that as well. And it was looking fantastic, wasn't it? 15 for 2, happy days.
Yeah, and Arshdeep, especially, he was in order to maximize the swing, he bowled a little slow today, and both Bhuvi and Arshdeep, like they got the ball to swing. They bowled the perfect test match lengths, and it was just brilliant to see. The bowling was India's biggest issue, but obviously the death bowling, not the power play bowling as much. But it was so brilliant to see how they came back like strongly, and just in the first match just set up the momentum for India from there.
They did, but then that partnership developed, didn't it, between Shan Masood and Iftikhar Ahmed as well, who took a little bit of time to get going, of course, having lost those 2 early wickets, didn't want to lose a third in the power play. We all know the stats regarding that, especially when you're batting first. So they took it to 91 for 3, and then that cusp of wickets once again. So from 91 for 2, which they were eventually 98 for 5. India back in the game. Hardik Pandya taking those 2 blows pretty quickly in the middle there as well, finishing with 3 for 30. Arshdeep with his 3 wickets eventually with the one at the end as well. So they felt they were back in the game, but Shan Masood stayed there till the end. He was the sort of junior partner in that partnership with Iftikhar as well. Then those wickets fell. Then Shan Masood saw it through to the end. And Shaheen Shah Afridi as well. Where the hell did that come from with the bat? Just some lusty blows towards the end to get them up to what was a competitive total in the end, 159 from where they were, 15 for 2, then 98 for 5 as well. Brilliant effort from them to get there.
Yeah. Do you think India should have bowled out Bhuvi upfront, like bowl all his 4 overs upfront, because they were clearly, like the Pakistan batters were clearly struggling against pace and bounce upfront, and then they introduced Akshar, Ashwin, the spinners. Obviously, they got Akshar bowled 1 over, went for 20, 21 runs in that, and momentum slightly shifted towards Pakistan in those few overs. Then Hardik and Shami were got they came into the attack, and then they picked up the a few wickets and slightly tilted towards India again. So do you think Bhuvi should have bowled out up front? They kept him for the last over, which was very strange, considering he's not really your 20th over bowler. So, or
Well,
were you
they
okay
still
with that?
fancy Bouvier at the death, don't they?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
thing. I mean, I thought it would have been, if you're bowling first, the most important over is going to be the 20th, because then the momentum and going into the second innings, and it could be the difference between restricting them to a gettable total to them getting something which they feel is defendable, which I felt it just kind of did tip the balance. I mean, it wasn't a terrible final over, but maybe Arshdeep could have bowled the 18th and the 20th rather than the
yeah.
17th and the 19th, because that's what you'd usually do. If you're defending, then the 19th might become the more crucial to leave a lot more runs for the final over for the team to chase down. So yeah, a bit of a surprise that he bowled the 20th. But look, you look at his figures overall, and it was job done, really. 4 overs, 1 for 22. Didn't get the wickets early on that we're used to seeing him get. Had to wait until the final over for that wicket. But, keeping the runs down, keeping things tight, moving the ball, beating the bat on a few occasions as well. Just enough swing. It wasn't boomerangs, but it was just enough swing early on for him to cause those problems as well. I mean, I don't think there was too much wrong in the combinations. I thought Rohit captained very well. Of course, you're going to have to bowl Akshar Patel if you pick him in the side, but that went wrong. 21 off his solitary over, so they decide, okay, we've got 6 bowlers anyway. He can take a back seat, and Hardik can, the way things are going, the conditions that are in front of us, Hardik can easily bowl his 4 overs, and he did so brilliantly. Picked up 3 for 30. Ashwin kept things pretty tight as well. Took a little bit of tap, but overall, 3 overs, none for 23. You'd take that any day, really, from one of your spinners against another South Asian side as well, who've got some good players of spin in there. So overall, I thought it was really good. I mean, maybe it was just that 1 over from Akshar Patel, which really made it into a competitive game in the end,
Yeah.
because if they'd got 21 less, or, not 21, but say they got 15 less runs, India would have felt, and they might have even come out harder early on and played more of a natural game, but they were very tentative, weren't they, at the start of that innings? And maybe that was the difference, that 21 from Akshar Patel. How do you feel? I mean, did he do much wrong with the ball in your view, or was it just one of those days?
Yeah, it was just one of those days. People can argue, that if you're bowling 1 over, why not have Rishabh Pant there? But at least there's the option of bowling Akshar Patel. Uh, they went with Hardik Pandya because they had that option. So yeah, the batting is slightly weak today. Akshar was promoted up the order just to tackle, tackle the left arm spinners, and um because there's no other left hander in the side. So that can be a little issue for India going ahead. But overall, I think this is the best 11, and he will have his off days. The others will have his off days. And also, while we are at on the topic of bowling, what really stood out for me was Arshdeep. His first World Cup, picked a wicket very early on in his spell, and during the innings break, they asked him, that they kept on bowling short up front, troubled the Pakistan batters in the power play, and they asked him, was that the length that you had, that you all had decided before going into the match? And he was like, no, we just adapted according to the conditions, which he's still a youngster, and okay, you expect Bhuvi to see what the conditions are and then adapt and bowl accordingly. But for someone like Arshdeep to do that, to gauge how the conditions are very early on in his spell, and then keep on troubling the batters, is very impressive. And yesterday for Wisden, we had like a few Wisden writers picked out the breakout star of the tournament, and Arshdeep was the most of the people favored him. I didn't go with him because of my fear of jinxing, but but yeah, so great start, and I hope he can carry on in the
Absolutely,
remaining
yeah.
match.
So the bowling on the whole was very good, very tight, well captained by Rohit Sharma. We'll talk about the batting after this short break. So we'll take a moment here just to gather our breath, and we'll be back on the other side.
You're listening to Cricket's Conversation on 99.94. Whatever your team, we have the show for you on podcast, YouTube, or on the 99.94 app. We have India, England, South Africa, West Indies, and now Sri Lanka covered. If you want to find us, the best way is to follow us on social media at 9994DM by downloading the 9994 app or Google 99.94 on podcast. We speak cricket.
So we mentioned the bowling. Let's talk about the batting then. So 160 on the board to chase down. First and foremost, what were your thoughts? What were your emotions?
My fear was the top order, the openers. It's always been India's, weakness, especially in pressure games, pressure situations. The top order has not really been able to fire, and the fact that Rohit Sharma, when he took on captaincy, said that we are preparing the middle order for situations of 10 for 2, 10 for 3, 15 for 3, shows that the Indian team identified that is a weakness. Not a weakness, like they just have the habit of failing in big games. Unfortunately, that is what happened again today. So
Yeah, and it was, it was Shaheen who we thought would be the big threat early on. And it just seemed from all the body language that they were very tentative. And obviously you're going to show somebody like Shaheen respect. He deserves the respect. But you've got to play the delivery. And he bowled well, but it wasn't unplayable in those first couple of overs. But just the too much respect I felt was shown to him. And then once you do that, you're not scoring runs, then the pressure comes, and then you've got somebody like Haris Rauf bowling absolute wheels, high pace, getting the extra bounce as well, causing all sorts of problems. And it was just a brilliant onslaught really from Pakistan early on in that innings. Obviously, Rahul, the first wicket, that was Naseem Shah with the extra pace, just played that one on. And then Haris Rauf with a beautiful delivery to Rohit Sharma, having him caught it slip as well. And at that point, you're thinking, oh shit, 10 for 2. Pakistan were 15 for 2. But you think it's all right because we've got Virat still there. As long as Virat is still there, it's like the old days with Sachin, even if they're 8 down, whatever. If Sachin's there, there's a chance, right? Even if you need 25 and over, people will still watch because he is there. It's a similar situation with Virat. So as long as Virat is there, it's fine. But also our new superstar, who, the man who I would consider the most informed T20 batter in the world right now, Suryakumar Yadav, the most confident as well, just came out, smashed a first ball, and I thought, oh, here we go. Here we go. We've seen these two do it. We've seen some brilliant partnerships from these two in recent times. And they're on one again, and here we go. And we saw a couple of really nice shots from Suryakumar, and even when he wasn't quite timing the ball perfectly, you could see the intent was there. He was seeing the ball well. His hand-eye coordination is second to none, really. And just tried one shot too many, really. It was a great delivery to get him, but 15 from 10, not enough, really, from your number 4 when you've lost a couple of early wickets. Needed to rebuild in that situation. He plays his way, right? He's got one way of playing. He's an innovator, but the ball was just too close to him, really, to be playing that ramp shot. Tried to sort of innovate, really. The ball came back in at him a touch as well. So tried to sort of innovate and ramp it over the keeper, maybe just one to sway out of the way of. But then you're 3 down in the power play. The stats would suggest that more than 80% of the time you're going to lose matches in which you lose.
The win predictor had Pakistan 85, India 15 at that moment.
Yeah. And that's exactly what the stats say. More than 80% of the time, if you lose 3 wickets in the power play, you're going to lose the game. So it's very rare for a side to pull it back from then. And then to make things even more mad and mental, Akshar Patel is sent up the order. And all right, I get the left-hand thing. But you're in a situation like that, right, with all that pressure. Maybe the thinking was, A, he's a left-hander, B, we just want to save our other guys a little bit longer, right? We don't want the Hardicks and the DKs to come in too early. And then what if they get out? Then there's nothing left to come. So maybe Akshar can just bat out a few overs with Virat and do it that way. And then a comical run out. What the hell was going on there? And what did you make? I mean, firstly, the calling was shocking anyway. It looked as though Akshar was interested. Kohli initially called him down the track and then sent him back. And it's very difficult to hear calls when you've got 90-odd thousand people in a stadium. So we'll forgive them a little bit for that. But then the throw comes in. The throw is fumbled by Rizwan. the glove clearly does break
Mm.
the stumps. Does the ball break the stumps before the glove, or does the glove break one bail and the ball breaks the other? I mean, Richard Kettleborough was, I think, a bit too trigger happy on that one. Gave it quite quickly. You could
Yeah.
you could see there was pressure on him as well, and he was trying to please everybody by not making the wrong decisions in his view, but also please the neutrals and please this whole new generation of cricket watchers by making decisions really quickly. And he was
Yeah.
a bit too quick on quite a few occasions, and I felt he was too quick on that one. And there wasn't clear evidence, I don't think, that the
Yeah.
ball hit the stumps. What do you think?
Yeah, same. Especially, the body language gives a lot away. And Rizwan Babar, especially Rizwan at that time, he just seemed so frustrated that, they've let go of an opportunity. So, I think that was obviously the third umpire. They don't go by that, but that was the biggest evidence, if any was needed, that, it wasn't really such a simple dismissal. And it did seem that the glove had broken the stumps and the ball was slightly still in the air and probably touching the stumps but didn't have that much of an effect to break the stumps, or that that impact to break the stumps. So yeah, wrong decision. There was, you can say possibly that there was another controversial decision at the end about the no ball in the end. Was it waist high, was it not waist high? So
It
that went
was.
India's.
I've seen the still. I think it was.
Yeah.
You get a ruler
A
out.
few.
It's quite
Yeah.
simple. I
Yeah.
genuinely think that was clear as day. But there are people who disagree. So
Yeah.
take it with a pinch of salt. Some go your way, some don't. It's all swings and roundabouts, and hopefully these things even themselves out at the end
Yeah.
of players' careers and things like that. But that brought together then that partnership between Virat Kohli and Hardik Pandya. And although, look, they put on over 100 in the end together, but it just felt that even though the boundaries came every so often, and then we saw those 3 sixes off the Nawaz over, it still just felt, with the way Haris Rauf was bowling, with the way Naseem Shah was bowling, that it just felt a little bit too far away, that target from India. They weren't quite within striking distance at any stage, really, even going into the last 2 overs, really. I mean, they needed 48 from 3, then 31, had a great over, and then 31 from the last 2 with Haris Rauf to bowl the 19th as well. And the first 4 deliveries of that, I was thinking, oh shit, this is it, it's done. And, we need sixes. And there was that important moment, I think, in that when, actually, before we go into that, I just want to make the point that I commentate on cricket for a living, and I've had many India-Pakistan matches to commentate on in the past, and you work for the BBC and you've got to be very neutral and objective about these things, and you can't get emotional, and you've got to learn to do that, and it's all fine. It does sort of take a heavy toll on you. Today I was able to just let it all out. I mean, when Kohli was hitting those sixes towards the end, I was jumping, I was screaming. I'm surprised
Yeah.
I've still got a voice left. I mean, it's great, isn't it? Just watching cricket, watching India-Pakistan as a fan. I mean, yeah, I'd love to be there, but in the absence of that, it's great just to be yourself. And I'm sure you were the same, right? Screaming at the telly.
Yeah, for the first, when KL got out, Rohit got out, all the wickets fell. Even when Hardik and Kohli were batting, it didn't seem that India had the game. Kohli struggled against Spain, and to Hardik, they kept bowling the slower bouncers and the short balls, and Hardik was struggling against that. So at no point, till the last 8 balls, did you think that okay, India have won? They were in the game, but it didn't seem like India had won. And I was just sitting on this chair, just looking at the screen, just silent, like nothing. I was just sitting there. I was like, yeah, okay, another loss, another. The last World Cup loss could have been an aberration, but again, and it was like I could see the disappointment coming in, and then that. Uh, the sixes that Kohli hit, the 2 sixes of Harris Rauf, and then the last over, I was just like, come on, India, have this. And it was just, these are the moments that fans or journalists or whoever, these are the moments they look forward to. These are the moments they live for. And it was just still, thinking back at those moments is just still goosebumps, so to say. And seeing Kohli cry, I've been following his career so closely. I've never seen him in tears after a match, but to see him in tears after the win, it just shows, personally what he's gone through. And just to able to bounce back after the 2.5 years of just struggling so much, where people were doubting him, questioning him, and to bounce back up, it's just so heartening to see. But before we go on to Kohli, like, I just want to talk about KL Rahul a little bit. Do you think after the World Cup, his spot in the T20I side at least will be under the scanner? KL Rahul, just throwing stats, little stats. Okay, he has an overall average of 38, 39, which is not the worst. But then if you go down and you see against Australia, average of 27, against England, 26, against Pakistan, average of 8.7, and against, so against the big teams, he's not really done that well. Most of his average is pulled up because of doing well against Afghanistan and Namibia, Scotland. So because
Yeah,
he's
it's a
been
good point. I
yeah.
mean, look, we've spoken about KL Rahul and being under the scanner, and it was heartening to see him find some form of late in T20s
Yeah.
in the bilateral series, and I still think he's got it in him to do well against the bigger sides. I don't know if it's a psychological block that he has when he comes into big games like this. Never really seems to deliver on the biggest stage. So yeah, he'll be under the scanner. I think he'll probably continue though. For at least the next year or so in T20 internationals, and they'll reevaluate well in time for the next World Cup. But yeah, good point. But yeah, gone early once again. And look, we get down to that situation then. 31 from the last two, and we'll get onto the final over in just a second. But let's talk about that Haris Rauf over. I mean, we were dead and buried. It was like the Undertaker in WWE, just rising from the dead, from the coffin, just at the last moment when you least expect it, with those two sixes. The first of which, what a shot! I mean, that was unbelievable from Virat Kohli. That slower ball dug into the pitch, short of a length, getting up to chest high almost, and he played it with a straight bat and hit it for six back down the ground. Unbelievable. I mean, you could hear on commentary as well, the likes of Michael Clarke, who's one of the greatest batters Australia have ever produced, and Ian Smith, who is pitch side as well, just raving about how good a shot that is, and the fact that most humans just couldn't play that shot, just defied the laws of physics almost. Unbelievable.
Especially coming in a pressure situation, that kind of a pressure situation, to go out there and hit a bowler who is fast. He is very fast, to hit that six, and then to carry on and hit the other six, the second six also, just slightly, I wouldn't say tilted the favor for towards India. But just the whole managing the pressure. And after the match, Kohli did talk about that six, and he said that we were under pressure, and I just knew I had to go for it. And the last two balls, I knew that I had to go for it, otherwise it could have been game over for India. And just he backed himself, and it came off so wonderfully, and wonderful to see.
I think that final over, look, I said, and I'm not just copying Ian Smith on commentary, before he said it, I was looking at it, 31 from the last two, and I thought, if we can leave 18 or less off the final over, we've got a chance here. It's Mohamed Nawaz. We saw what happened to him in his previous over as well. I just felt 18 was good. I mean, 16 off the final over, I was feeling pretty confident, but just before we get onto that final over, which deserves its own segment, I feel, with all the madness and mayhem around it, we'll take a short break and see you on the other side.
If you love the language of cricket and want more, then head over to the 99.94 app, and you can hear all of our podcasts and cricket commentary. We're adding new shows all the time and covering cricket series from all over the world. Be the first to hear all of our announcements by following us on social media at 9994DM. Welcome to Cricket's Conversation.
So 16 off the final over required then. Mohammad Nawaz comes into bowl. I mean, his eyes were like a rabbit in headlights, weren't they? He was feeling the pressure. He almost looked as though a man that felt his captain was throwing him under the bus, giving him the final over. But they had no other options. I mean, I was on a Twitter Spaces actually for 99.94 just before we started recording this podcast, immediately after the game. And there was one Pakistan fan on there who was suggesting Iftikhar should have bowled the final over, but he hadn't bowled throughout the whole innings. So, I mean, that's even more pressure on somebody to come in to a game with the ball in the final over, trying to defend 16 against a rampant Virat Kohli. So that would have been the wrong decision as well. So they had to bowl Nawaz, and you could just see from the body language of him
Kohli
that
wasn't on strike then, so
he wasn't.
Yeah, it was.
And then
Hardik
he got
Pandya
the
on
wicket
strike.
off the first delivery as well with Hardik. So then you're thinking, oh, bloody hell, like 16 off 5, and it has to be the new batter on strike. They did cross, but the new laws have come into effect now, and the new batter will always take strike at the fall of a wicket. So DK comes in, and I mean, yeah, DK the finisher and all this and whatever we've been calling him, didn't quite manage to get it done. I mean, it was madness. The wide, the stumping of DK, another wide. I mean, they ran the 3 with DK still there, didn't they? When the 3 buys off the no ball free hit as well.
Yeah.
For the full
The
toss.
stumps, the ball hitting the stumps then, and people thinking it could have been a dead ball or whatever. And
Yeah, and then Barber losing his shit really, and arguing with the umpires, and Mariah Erasmus had to come in and calm things down, and it was all kicking off. And then DK gets stumped, 2 to win off 1 ball. Ashwin comes in. I'm thinking super over. Here we go, super over. Ashwin's going to tap and run, and we're going to get the dreaded super over. And, you know, all right, no side maybe deserved to lose that match, but to lose it in a super over is even more heartbreaking, I feel. And there would have been all sorts of excuses from the losing side after the super over. It was a super over, it doesn't count, or whatever.
Yeah.
And then for Ashwin to have that presence of mind to shimmy towards the leg side, so Nawaz looks to follow him, and in the last minute comes back into the line of the stumps, moves his backside out of the way, through it goes for a wide, and then all of a sudden scores a level, 1 ball to go. You just know they're going to run, and unless something dramatic happens, they're going to win. And Ashwin to just loft it over mid-off like that.
Yeah.
I mean, balls of steel, absolute brilliance from Ashwin, the coolest man in Melbourne by far. He's currently wearing his sunglasses and smoking a cigar somewhere with a nice cocktail, I feel. Just celebrating how cool he was in that situation. Unbelievable.
Yeah. The difference, just a few, the delivery before that wide, Nawaz had sent down a similar delivery to Dinesh Karthik, and he had been stumped. So Dinesh Karthik looked to, like sweep that delivery, and then he was stumped. The ball went wide, and he was stumped. But Ashwin had that sense that, to just let it go for a wide, and that smart skills. And even Virat Kohli spoke about it after the match. So that's very impressive. And again, even in the last ball, he went back in his crease and then just didn't look to do anything extraordinary, just looked to take a single. And game over. The emotions after that, just still trying to process it. It was
It's
one
mad,
of the best games.
and it's a victory. It's important to start a World Cup with a victory, of course. We must look at it in the bigger context of what it is. I almost forgot it's a World Cup match. It was just India-Pakistan at the MCG. It was all about that occasion. But in the bigger context of things, it's a win for India. Virat Kohli described it as his best T20I innings, putting it just above his 82 from 52. just one ball less, exact same score. Unbelievable. The way he started, he was going at a run a ball until he was in his mid-30s pretty much, and then just went into absolute beast mode. And he was emotional. He was almost in tears at the end. Rohit Sharma was almost in tears at the national anthem. It was an emotional game, wasn't it? I felt it thousands and thousands of miles away, and I'm sure you did too. And what a way for India to cap off that event. And as I say, 2 points on the board. How do they get themselves out of this sort of zone of all this emotion and ready for Thursday for round 2?
Yeah, just a bit more on Kohli. We've been following his career for so long, and just when we think that, okay, he can't do anything more that will surprise us, he just keeps churning it out again and again and again. And against Pakistan, he has that phenomenal record, just bettered it even more after this match. 6 out of 6 times chasing. He's helped India win 6 out of 6 times against Pakistan when they're chasing, and 18 times when he's been unbeaten in a run chase. India have gone on to win the match, win a T20I match. So chase master for a reason, and adjectives fall short on what he brings to the table, and just his overall impact. He's no longer the captain, but he was constantly having a word with Arshdeep during the match, in the power play when he was bowling his first over. He was constantly going up to Arshdeep. No longer the captain, but obviously his presence is still so valued. About how India prepare for the next match, probably it will help a little that it's against Netherlands,
Yep.
and not another big match, like again, big match as in every match in the World Cup is a big match, but not against South Africa, because that would have been a little tougher to navigate the emotions and then go straight into a uh, match against a higher ranked team. So um it should be
Yeah.
easy,
So,
hopefully, against
well,
Netherlands. Yeah.
we hope so. We hope so. And maybe another chance for Shami as well to bowl another 4 overs and keep going and gaining that momentum and getting better and better in terms of his fitness and getting back to his best in this form of the game. So we look forward to that. We'll have another episode for you on India on 99.94 after the conclusion of that game. But for now, I think Sarah and I, it's safe to say, are off to celebrate or just try and get rid of all these emotions that are running around in our heads. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Please rate and subscribe to us on your podcast feed on YouTube. Download the 99.94 app and see you next time.